All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November 12th, 2024 El Dorado Irrigation District Board Meeting. May I have roll call, please?
We've opened the meeting at 9:05 a.m. We have directors Osborne, Dwyer, Day, Veerkamp, and Anzini present. General Manager Abercrombie, General Counsel Polson, and Clerk to the Board Sullivan present.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and following that, a moment of silence for our colleague, friend, and longtime public servant, John Heidel, who we lost this past week. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the adoption of the agenda? We'll get to each individual item as we go, but is there any public comment on the adoption of the agenda?
If members of the public would like to address the board on the adoption of today's agenda, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on the adoption of today's agenda. Moved by Director Anzini and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Jim, do we have any employee recognition this morning?
None this morning, thank you.
All right. Now's the time for public comment for EID-related items that are not on today's agenda.
Good morning.
State your name and...
Chuck Mansfield, Placerville, representing the Agricultural Commission and constituents of Division 1, Division 3.
Yeah, I'm Lloyd Walker.
We just came together and we wanted to express our gratitude to both Director Osborne and Director Veerkamp. Osborne in particular for your length of service here at EID and your willingness to always be available and willing to help the constituents of your division in solving the many issues we faced over the years. Brian, we appreciate, while you had a shorter tenure here at EID, you've had a life of community service dating back to your days with the fire service. So we just wanted to come together and give you guys a small token of our appreciation. Since it is mine, I will give it to the general counsel.
Yes, please.
Yeah. We'll have to inspect that a little later.
Brian,
Just one.
can you, the mics?
This weekend, it's same bags.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Lloyd.
We do have to exit because we have to be at the board of supervisors. So I appreciate you amending the agenda for us.
Thank you, gentlemen. See you soon, I'm sure.
Oh. So is there, do we have any other further public comment on items not on today's agenda? Or is Paul's, he's still going to go? Okay. Oh, okay. Might be easier for him to hold it.
Okay. Yes, I would just like to also pass on my congratulations and thanks to you folks. I talked to Greg Boger this morning. He's indisposed and couldn't make it here and wanted me to pass on the appreciation for what you folks have done for agriculture. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Lloyd. And Chuck, the dress code for next visit, I'm just pointing it out.
It's getting, my one suit is getting dragged.
Okay.
You'll need to talk to a board clerk on that.
Had the conversation.
Yeah, Jennifer will take care of you. All right. Do we have anybody online, Jennifer?
If members of the public would like to address the board on items not on today's agenda, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2. Present date does not appear we have any additional members of the public wishing to speak.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to communications. Jim?
Thank you. I have a brief summary of what happened with the DSM line. Just a quick information item for you because it affected so many customers.
Good morning, Patrick Wilson, Drinking Water Manager. So the Diamond Springs main break that we had last Monday, this is just a quick update for the board. Next slide. So just an overview, the Diamond Springs main, as the board's aware, it provides water from our Reservoir 7 facility all the way down to Cameron Park. It receives water solely from Reservoir A water treatment plant. There are many laterals that are off of it, effectively fingers, if you will, dead-end lines that are feeding major portions of El Dorado County, including this one, which was a 21-inch line. It had a leak on it that affected a little over 1,000 customers. We were able to subsequently backfeed using lower pressure water for approximately 230 customers in that area. There was extensive outreach for the affected customers, and it took approximately 20 hours to fully restore from the repair. Next slide. So as you can see, we're exposing the pipe on the left, and on the right is where the leak is actually occurring, adjacent to what is actually a repair band. So another leak had occurred here previously. They had actually cut in a piece of pipe. We actually connected to that pipe and extended our repair from that original repair that was done in that photo. Next slide. So as you can see on the left-hand side, that's actually removing that original coupling. On the left, the far left, the pipe that's sticking through is actually ductile iron, and on the right is concrete pressure pipe. As you can see underneath that coupling, there was severe corrosion that occurred, and subsequently additional leaks occurred outside of that coupling, as you can kind of see from left to right. Next slide. And inside the pipe, this is actually the portion that was removed. The pipe itself has good mortar lining and good concrete lining on the external as well. And that's what we'd like to see and is very encouraging. However, this leak is a little bit alarming considering the location, how close it was to a prior repair. Next slide. And just kind of stepping through the process itself. So working on 21-inch is just obviously larger than working on anything smaller than it. But the challenge with that is getting access. So it did require, excavation and shoring, as you can see there. And then actually cutting of the pipe, of course, is its own challenge, especially with concrete pressure pipe. Next slide. And that's the new section of ductile iron pipe that we cut in, and new repair, or excuse me, field couplings that we have there. They're in blue. And then you can kind of see we're mortaring back the outside of that concrete pressure pipe in that middle photo there. And that's really important, and that's likely part of the reason that we had the leak that we have now, is likely that there was not appropriate mortar replaced for the pipe that was cut in originally. And then on the right, you can see that we've, with the ductile iron pipe, we've done the appropriate polyethylene encasement there as well. Next slide.
Are you able to backfill, or do you have to wait for the mortar to dry?
It instantly sets.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it's very, very quick. So we're able to backfill immediately. And speaking of backfill, there we are backfilling right after. And then that photo was on the right-hand side is the final, up until final paving, that is, that following morning after water was restored. Next slide. Okay. So the pipeline itself was originally installed in 1961, including all the laterals that are off of it. We've had 9 documented breaks and 14 documented leaks, and we've seen an increase in frequency over the years, as was mentioned previously. Next slide. So on that day, that was not the only leak that we were dealing with. Just for the board's edification, on the lower middle of that slide, there was a leak on Sunday night. Monday, we had the transmission leak, which is in the middle of the screen, as well as the other 3 leaks that are shown there, kind of spread out across the county. And additionally, there were leaks that were being called in that we had to manage subsequently as well, that we weren't able to make repairs on that day due to crews being stretched as thin as they were. Next slide. You don't get to see me again. And, thanks to the team that was able to help, make this repair successful, not only our construction crews, customer service dealing with phone calls and inquiries about the outage. Just to mention, Folsom Lake Community College was out of water, Indian Creek was out of water, as well as Dorado County Office of Education. They subsequently were taken out of water to make this repair. All worked well with our team and understood the circumstances that we were in, including the distribution operators, welders, and the locators, and of course, our commitment to excellent customer service as well. Next slide. The customers directly downstream that actually received the water from the leak was gracious enough to send in this email to the district, basically showing her appreciation for how quickly we responded to it. She was very kind to us, not only while we were out there, but also on our way out, was very gracious to every staff member that was out there, and very appreciative of her acknowledgement of the team and the efforts they put forward. And just some key takeaways, as these pipelines continue to age, these leaks will likely continue to not only occur, but occur more frequently going forward, and outages will likely be larger. This outage, we had to add approximately 26 additional customers because we had a valve fail as well, so we had to chase it even further back in the system. So that's an ongoing challenge that we're going to have going forward, not only the leaks itself, but being able to isolate it, and the challenges within these systems, and certainly these laterals. They're interconnected, interwoven. There's many valves. In this case, it was well over 12 valves it took to isolate that system. Depending on where it's at and how it's fed, it could be even more challenging and even larger scale outages depending on the circumstances we run into. So it is 63-year-old pipelines, and we'll need to, these and other projects will continue to be a priority in our capital improvement projects going forward. End of update.
How impacted were the schools? Did they have to close down?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Patrick, just a couple of things. One is, again, I'll join in the hats off to the crew responding to these multiple outages, and say, we appreciate the dedication of all our staff to fulfill our mission. The question is, did we have the couplings and the material in stock to do this replacement?
Yes, we did.
That's a good thing. And the other question is, on the capital improvement project, I can't remember if we included that in this year's funding for CIP, or is it on the $70 million of projects that we deferred?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's in our water master planning process. It's out there a ways. It's probably mid-2030s. We had to push some projects back just from the financial thing. So the Diamond Springs main replacement eventually, around that time frame, mid-2030s.
I was afraid that would be the case. So thank you.
So it's just another question regarding the CIP. Sometimes we think, but if anything is older than 50 years, it should be up higher on the priority list in the CIP. I mean, that's 63-year-old line.
Yeah, I mean, age is a factor.
Right.
And, you know, with this pipeline, history of breaks, you know, we're trying to get into condition assessments of our pipelines. We've done some condition assessments of our El Dorado main pipeline on the north side of our system. We haven't done that for the south side of this DSM pipeline, but I think that's needed as well in the future. But yes, it's one of the factors for sure.
And when we do inventory on parts, I think it's really important that, you know, the inventory gets restocked as quick as possible. So, you know, that way we can grab when we need. So just a thought process. I think the price of goods is going to go up, so.
Do we have the means to scope the pipeline in order to kind of see, because there might be sections that are in great shape and other sections that are, need to be bumped up. I'm just wondering if we're able to do that or not, if we're able to take a look at them.
I'm not sure the question, as far as just scoping different areas that.
Yeah, looking inside the pipe.
Oh, yeah, we've got, there's technology that's, we've done that with the EDM1 where there's cameras and some type of inspection equipment we can do inside of a live pipeline with flowing water. So yeah, that would be part of it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Is there any public comment? This was for information.
Great job.
If members of the public would like to comment, please refer to page 2 of today's agenda. I'm wondering if we should call for public comment after the communications are over. But can we pause for 1 minute because I'm going to try to unplug this and
Okay,
plug it back in.
we'll take a break till we figure out our technical issues.
There we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
Nah, not Renee.
All right, we're back, and we'll continue communications. Lori, do you have any?
Hey, folks.
Lori, do you have any communications?
Just a couple things. First of all, the Mountain County Water Agencies are having a special conference. It's going to be hosted in Cameron Park next month. I would encourage board members to attend. We have some pretty good speakers there. And just put that on your calendar. I think it's December 17th. I'm not sure. But certainly it's on a Thursday night. The event will be Thursday night for reception. And of course, the board meeting will be the following Friday.
All right, Brian?
Yes, this coming Friday, the 15th at 9 a.m., the Board of Supervisors will be doing a memorial honorary of John Heidel, 9 a.m. at the Board of Supervisors chambers. Next GLAFCO meeting is December 4th. We'll be reviewing the Cameron Park CSD financials and other things that we requested that they never responded to. So it might be an interesting meeting. So that's what we have coming up at LAFCO.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. You can take a nap now. I'm going to speak for a few minutes. It has been an enjoyable time for me to be on this board. We have a tremendous employee association, employee management association, tremendous employees, and I've even had a couple of people say, would you please come back and bug us every once in a while? So, and I'll do that. But, you know, it's been a very enjoyable time. It's just interaction with the employees has been rewarding. It's just a constant enjoyable time for the last almost 24 years. And I'm going to get a little weepy about it, but thank you so much for putting up with me for 24 years. And I think I'll end it with that.
I would like a request. Did you have a chance to check your rain gauge this, yesterday?
28 hundredths of an inch.
Awesome. Thank you, George. You'll have to phone those reports in for us, please. All right, we'll now move on to the approval of the consent calendar. We are going to pull item 6. Is there anything else that anyone would like pulled?
I'll move, go ahead. Jim.
Who's pulling item 6?
Director Dwyer.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'll move that, and with the comment on, I think it's item 5, hopefully with Tykert, we're done with the change orders. We're at 13%, a little higher than the 10, but understanding the rock clause and so forth, and now the paving, but hopefully we're done and that project's wrapped up. That's item 5, the change order Tykert.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll move it.
Okay, a motion with approve the consent calendar minus item 6.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the approval of the consent calendar?
If members of the public would like to address the board on the approval of the consent calendar, please refer to the instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the approval of today's consent calendar minus item number 6, moved by Director Veerkamp and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Please vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye, motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. And Pat?
Yes, thank you, President Day. Actually, the item concerns the purchase of a modular unit to provide quarters and break areas for the operators at Treatment Plant A. And I have really no problem with the procedure, with the decision, with the purchase of this modular home. Consent calendars are sometimes an issue. We put things on the consent calendar that are minor things just to speed up the meeting and not bog it down. But there are certain times where large expenditures, and other boards have been accused of hiding things on the consent calendar, and I don't want us to be open to that criticism. So I thought it was important for us to daylight this purchase. It is a pretty substantial structure, and talk about, make sure that we all agree and approve on the purchase of the I'll say facility, but I guess is it a facility or a piece of equipment? I don't know. But I think it's important that we daylight it.
Question? Go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that one out. I think also, like, maybe I didn't read this whole thing because it was on consent, and I should be paying more attention, but I've been distracted. This was in the plan to create that. If I remember rightly, we were in the plans of doing the Reservoir A water. Was that in the plan right along to provide this housing, this structure?
Sure. Patrick Wilson, Drinking Water Manager. So it is in the plan for replacement. It's included
It
within the
was there.
CIP.
Okay.
Correct. So there's $600,000 a year to replace water treatment plant assets.
And you put that into the
And that's
budget?
part of one of the assets. So we're
Okay.
looking to replace those.
All right, thanks.
Patrick, maybe just give a little summary of why it's being replaced and the condition of the old one. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So the original structure was actually repurposed from our headquarters here at El Dorado Irrigation District, was one of the business administration offices. So in the early 2000s, it was moved up there for living quarters during the shifts that were utilized there. So, and over the years, it's been expanded not only just for living quarters for 24/7 operation, but also for meetings and a break area. Subsequently, over the years, that structure was not originally designed for the snow load that it's had, so there's been some challenges with retrofitting it, keeping it operational. Currently, when it does rain, it rains inside the building, so through the windows, water's coming in. There's measuring jars in there as well, very similar to Director Osborne's. We do keep track of rain there as well. We have a significant rodent infestation that we fought over the years. We continue to fight. It's very difficult because that trailer, being whatever generation it is very difficult to shore up. We've spent quite a bit of money trying to keep it rodent-free. Additionally, we do have a wasp infestation that we deal with on an annual basis as well that seems to work its way within the trailer, and so we're constantly death by 1,000 cuts, absolutely. So we've done everything we can to retrofit it. Over the years, we've fixed the roof, we've adjusted siding, we tried to fix the drainage, but ultimately the location and the condition of that trailer needs to be moved and replaced ultimately.
Thank you for your rationale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, and I want to thank Director Dwyer for bringing this forward. I think it is a good idea. It was a little, when you first see it, it's El Dorado Homes, what are we doing? So thank you, Pat.
So with that, I'll move that we approve item 6.
I'll second that. Is there any public comment on item 6?
If members of the public would like to comment on consent calendar item number 6, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on consent calendar item number 6. Option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Day. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Please vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye, motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Now, we'll now open a public hearing on item 10 at 9:33 a.m.
Nah. Pointer needed. Okay, thank you. Good morning. Brian Mueller, Director of Engineering. Yes, this is a public hearing. It's a case of devil's in the details. We've got to come back with some corrections to our facility capacity charges. And those relate to 2 supplemental charges that are tacked onto our FCCs for both the line and cover 3 surcharge and the gabbro soils charge. The board approved an update to our FCCs just this last September. We went through this year a comprehensive study and update of our FCCs, and the board approved that in September 23rd. Next slide, please. And so after approval, we did identify some minor corrections pertaining to the line and cover 3 surcharge and the gabbro soils charge as well. And the corrections only apply to two of our FCC categories, the agricultural meters and the dual plumbed FCCs. So it's just those 2, no other FCCs are affected by this correction.
Brian, not to steal your thunder, but the FCCs for ag went down. Is that correct?
Yeah, the FCCs went down as a result of these corrections. Right. The dual plumb charges goes up by slightly $270.
Although we're not hooking up any more dual plumbed, are we?
We still have it just as a possibility. We don't anticipate there's going to be any new dual plumb there, but we kept it in the FCC schedule just in case there's maybe an infill lot out there that would be a dual plumbed home, but we don't expect to be any.
Good. Thank you. This should be an easy one then.
It should be. And just for background on these supplemental charges, again, these are the 2 we have here. Back in 2008, the district implemented the line and cover, which is, line cover 3 is phase 3. We had 3 different phases of the line and cover program, and this was to fund the improvements to our previously uncovered, unlined drinking water storage reservoirs, so that this is a $325 charge. This charge sunsets in 2028, so this will eventually drop off in a few years. And then the Gabbro Soil Supplemental Charge that was implemented back in 2001. It's part of our Conditions of Water Right Permit 21112. But initially it was a $345 charge to fund some land acquisitions and ongoing costs to fund the protection and management of some rare and endangered plants that only grow in the Gabbro soils environments in our service area.
Yeah, I had to Google Gabbro to see what it was. It's a rock.
Yeah. It's just a different type of dirt, right? Next slide. So just getting into the changes here. First, for the agricultural meters, this only affects on the line and cover 3 surcharge. Typically, these charges for other FCCs, they increase in proportion to the meter size. So a 3/4 inch meter would be a $325 charge, then it would increase as the meter size increases. But what we found and what we need to correct is back in 2008, the board held that capacity charge or the supplemental charge to only $325, no matter what meter size. So the rationale is that you know, the charge is for treated drinking water by lining and covering our reservoirs. So that charge is taken up into essentially a 3/4 inch meter size for the residential portion of an agricultural meter. But the majority of water use for agricultural meter, of course, goes to outside irrigation and doesn't require treated water. It wouldn't necessarily require a covered storage reservoir. So the charge was just held constant for each meter size. And the next slide shows that table and the corrections. And you see the corrections in red here in the line and cover 3 surcharge column. We're just changing, instead of increasing that charge per meter size, we just held it at $325. So as Director Dwyer mentioned, this does result in a slight decrease in the FCC for new agricultural meters. And then moving to the dual plumbed FCC, if you recall back in when the board adopted the dual plumbed FCC, this is a little bit different because we had to essentially reduce the dual plumbed FCC for both the buy-in and the incremental components of that charge. And we incorrectly also carried that forward with these 2 supplemental charges as well by reducing that based on the potable water demand of a dual plumbed connection compared with just a regular single family connection. However, this charge is supposed to be a per EDU charge, and really a dual plumb connection is equivalent to 1 EDU. It just has 2 different services. So we need to correct that to apply the full supplemental charge for each dual plumb connection. So next slide. And you can see here, this again in red, this is the corrections here. You can see we reduced the buy-in and incremental by about 40%, but we need to maintain 100% of the Gabbro soils and line and cover surcharges as well. So it increases the FCC from about $23,288 up to only $23,558, so $270 increase. So I just summarize that. We have a new resolution that's included in the board packet that amends the previous resolution number 2024-025 with these corrections. And again, the new FCCs will go into effect January 1st of 2025, and we're also going to be escalating that those dollar values that you see here per the engineering news record construction cost index. So the board options, option 1 is to adopt a resolution revising facility capacity charges to correct the applicable line and cover 3 and Gabbro soils supplemental charges and amend resolution number 2024-025. Our recommendation is option 1.
Mr. Chair, I'll move option 1.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions?
I can vote for this because I don't have to live with the consequences.
Voted for the last one. I guess my only question is, we used a rather experienced and expensive consultant to help us with the FCC charges. Is it a surprise that they had this error?
We did discuss that. We were trying to kind of go back in time and say, did we talk about this? And I think we arrived at, it was kind of more of a mutual correction that we made, that yes, I think it was briefly discussed, but just not finalized in the report. And at the same time, there's a review period that we kind of took some responsibility that we didn't catch it as well. So kind of a
I'm kind of
shared
surprised that
responsibility.
Sanjay wasn't here today to fess up.
I don't think too many jurisdictions have to deal with the Gabriel Soils issue
Yeah.
either, so
Yeah, it
we're,
took
we're
some-
unique in El Dorado County.
It took some time to explain what those charges were for.
All right. Is there any public comment on item 10?
If members of the public would like to address the board on public hearing item number 10, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on public hearing item number 10. Option 1, moved by Director Veerkamp and seconded by Director Anzini. I believe that we are ready for the vote.
Please vote.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And we'll close the public hearing at 9:42 a.m. Now we'll move on to action item number 11. Ms. Bandy?
Good morning, Director Day, members of the board. I'm Jamie Bandy, Director of Finance. I'm here this morning to present the proposed 2025 and 2026 operating budget and 5-year financial plan. So previous board action, we were here just last month presenting the same proposed budget that you will see today. There is one slight change to today that I will point out in detail in just a couple of slides. So looking at what we're going to be reviewing today, again, we will look at our year-end projections for the current year. We'll take a look at our future projections for both revenue and expenses for 2025 and 2026. We'll take a look at our debt service coverage as well as the 5-year forecast. Next slide, Jen. So beginning with our year-end projections for this year, overall, the total revenues are higher by just under $8 million. And again, the major contributors include our FCC revenue, property tax, our hydroelectric revenue, our investment income, as well as some grant revenue that we realized this year. And here on this slide, I just want to note that our hydroelectric revenue is about $380,000 more than we saw just last month. So we did realize some additional revenue there. And that is the only change to what we're seeing today. So now looking ahead, our revenue projections for 2025 and 2026, primarily our FCCs are up about $1 million. We're also projecting our property tax by about $2 million higher. And then in 2025, we are including $9 million in our grants. And this is primarily a $10 million grant that we received from Department of Water Resources for our Sly Park Intertie project. And only a portion of that is in the first year. The remaining portion is in 2026. And then taking a look at a chart here, this just shows all of our revenue categories year over year. So, okay, thank you. The 2024 adopted budget, our year-end projections that we just looked at, and then the proposed 25 and 26 projections looking ahead. One thing I did want to point out on that slide just for some clarification. Again, if you look at the total for 25 and 26, the revenue numbers are, pretty similar, but again, included in 2025 is a $9 million worth of that DWR grant. Next slide, Jen. All right, just quick review again of our budget development process. Again, we just kind of take a look at our actuals at a certain time of the year and annualize and adjust those for the projections. And then looking ahead at our 25-26 proposed budget, overall 25 is approximately $6 million or 9% higher than the 24 adopted budget. And then our 26 proposed budget is 3% higher than that of 25. Now looking at our expense projections. So first we'll take a look at personnel. So overall the net personnel expenses are higher by about $4.5 million. Overall, what is included in here is our gross wages have decreased by about $43,000. This really is related to retirements and newer employees starting back out at lower step increases than what current employees are or where they are. And then our capitalized labor offset also decreased by about $1.6 million. And again, that's primarily related to the Hanson project that's coming to a close. So there's not quite as much labor being capitalized for that project next year. And then overall, the largest increase to the personnel expense category really is our benefits. So as you can see, that's increased by about $3 million. And the major contributors in that area is our employee contribution to PERS, our medical expenses, as well as our retiree health increases. Now looking at our material and services side, so altogether this increase is about $1.5 million or right at 5%. Again, what's listed here on the slide are just the major contributing factors, but as you can see, our utilities continue to be the largest increase to the overall expenses in this section. Next slide. Okay, and then also again, just another chart looking at the expenses by type. The first three lines on here make up the net personnel expenses. And then looking second to the bottom row, that is our total for our materials and services. With our total operating expenses altogether for 2025, we're looking at about $71 million, which is about a 9% increase over the 24 budget. And then the 26 proposed is $73 million, which is just 3% over that of the 25 proposed. And then one more chart to just kind of drill down a little bit deeper into the benefits, the benefit types. So again, looking at the medical, the retiree health, and the PERS are our largest increases overall for the benefits. Okay, we'll take a look at debt service coverage. Again, so for 2025 proposed budget, you see our estimated revenue total, our estimated operating expense, which then results in our available net revenues of about $56 million. Debt service payments for the year are right around just under $23.5 million, which on this graph does show our debt service ratio at about 2.39. We do have an additional slide that we looked at the workshop and we'll go over again today that does, I want to point that out when we get there. This chart that we're looking at today does include the $6 million prepayment that the district has historically made in recent years. And so the debt service coverage on this page does look slightly different than that on the 5-year forecast that we'll look at in a few slides. Okay.
Jamie, could you touch on why we do the prepayment? Because we're only prepaying it by about a month or two, I mean.
Yeah, so we typically do the prepayment in December, and that payment is due March 1st. So we are paying it a few months in advance, and it does just help us with the interest savings. And then it also, again, looking at the debt service coverage, if we're able to realize that a little bit sooner, that helps with our coverage as well. You're welcome. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Help pay things off a little bit sooner and saving on the interest. Okay, so looking next at our financial plan and our cash flow, I did add this slide just to kind of have a graphic on our S&P Global ratings. They recently did reaffirm the district's AA- credit rating, which they do view as stable. Some of the positive factors that they highlighted for this rating are the district's ample water supply, our strong financial performance, our overall rate affordability, as well as our adopted rate increases. And they did also highlight the diverse sources of revenue, so our property tax and our hydroelectric revenue in addition to just our rate revenues. S&P did, however, caution that if the district's liquidity deteriorates significantly or if our all-in debt service falls short of projections, that our credit rating could be lowered. One other thing, so again, just looking when we get to the 5-year forecast, in 2025 and 26, it does show that our debt service coverage ratios are slightly lower. But the proposed budget and the financial plan presented today do account for those concerns and reflect staff recommendations for maintaining the credit metrics, and we'll take a look at that. I think we skipped a slide. So we've seen this slide many times, but just as a reminder, kind of the financial objectives of why we look at a 5-year plan, again, really are just to generate the adequate revenues for all of our operating costs to pay our debt, meet our debt covenants, maintain adequate reserves, as well as our CIP funding levels. We want to maintain service and reliability levels for ratepayers. We want to avoid customer rate shock, as well as maintaining strong credit ratings and strong debt coverage ratios. So again, looking at the 5-year plan, our revenues for our rates. So implementation of the rates that have been previously adopted will help us produce funds for our replacement of our aging infrastructure. Patrick was here earlier just kind of discussing another example of why it's very important for us to be able to afford the replacement and maintenance of the infrastructure. We need to maintain our debt coverage as required by the bond covenants, as well as maintaining those operating reserves that have been approved by the board. Next slide. On the expense side, again, looking at the proposed forecast, the 2025 proposed budget is an increase by about 9% over 2024. And then the outer years, 2026 through 29, we've estimated at a 3% cost inflation factor for those years. Looking at our debt, so the proposed plan does currently include a future debt issuance in the charts that we're going to see in the year 2027, estimated at about $120 million. That issuance is really looking at Silver Lake Dam replacement as well as water treatment plant improvements. And just to point out that the figures that are in the 25 plan do include the 24 bond issuance that we're currently working through. 70 million, yes.
And what interest rate are we anticipating?
4.5 is what everything is estimated right now. So we'll know in the next couple of weeks exactly where we land on that.
Should be favorable the way
Hoping
things
so.
are. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Okay. So the next couple of charts, we're just going to look at some our debt information. So this first slide is our current existing outstanding debt. This does not include the 70 million issuance for 2024 or the proposed future issuance. So this is just as we stand today. The projected debt outstanding, this does include the $70 million in 2024 and the $120 million in 2027. And then what does that mean for us annually on our debt service payments? So this chart shows all existing debt as well as the 2024 issuance and the future issuance currently estimated for 2027. So now we'll take a look at the 5-year forecast altogether, the next few slides. This first one does just show the total district. So as you can see, our total revenues, our operation costs, our debt service payments, as well as our CIP projected numbers in here. And then towards the bottom, you do see our debt service coverage numbers as well. And then this is for just the water utility, the same chart. And then the next slide is our wastewater. And then the last chart that we have in here, I just want to spend a couple of minutes on this one again as well to really kind of highlight something. For budgeting purposes, the district considers additional factors that are not necessarily considered when the rating companies are looking at our financials to set our credit rating. So specifically in our budget, we include our potential grants, or like I said in this, we've only included grants that we've been awarded and we do expect to receive in the year. So not overinflating, estimated grant revenue. We also, for budgeting purposes, include that prepayment in the debt service payments. What you see on this graph here does not include the grant revenue, and so the total revenues are slightly higher than what we saw in the other charts. And the senior debt service, the second highlighted line, does not include the estimated $6 million debt prepayment. And so what that means, if you look towards the bottom, the last two highlighted numbers, this is the debt service coverage that our credit raters are looking at, and those are the figures that they use. So while we had about a 2.3 debt service coverage earlier for budgeting purposes, you can see here that it drops much lower. The internal senior subordinate debt coverage, which does not include our FCC revenue, for 2025 drops all the way down to 1.01. So pretty close. And then another thing just to point out on this chart, this does include the rate increases, so the 12% for water and the 3% for wastewater and recycled water for the projected years in here. So board options, option 1 is to adopt the proposed 2025-2026 operating budget and 2025 to 2029 financial plan. And staff recommends option 1.
I'll move option 1.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any board comment? Okay, I'll just go, yikes, there's some big numbers in there. And is there any public comment?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 11, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 11. Option 1, moved by Director Dwyer and seconded by Director Ancini. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Director Osborne, I know you're mesmerized by your beautiful wife that just walked in, but we're ready for your vote.
Yep.
We're ready for your vote, yes.
It can't be held against you.
Yeah.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, now, thank you, Jamie. We'll move on to item number 12.
Pay the
Sorry.
bills, I'll move 1.
All right. Do we have any recusal today?
Yes, I will be recusing myself from this item.
All right, so Director Veerkamp will be recusing himself. We have a motion from Director Osborne and a second by Director Dwyer. Is there any public comment on item 12, or paying our bills through the warrant registers?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 12, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 12. Option 1, moved by Director Osborne and seconded by Director Dwyer. I believe we're ready for the vote.
All right, please vote.
Excuse me, and that's with Director Veerkamp recusing himself.
Yes.
Division 1, 2, 4, and 5 voting aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. And now we'll be moving to item 13, to consider adopting a resolution to recognize exemplary public service of Director George Osborne and Director Brian Veerkamp.
So what I will do, President Day, is I will read the resolution for Director Veerkamp first, and then we'll move on from there. Okay. Resolution of the Board of Directors of El Dorado Irrigation District. And I'm sorry, before I start, the board has just been handed a resolution for Director Director Veerkamp, sorry, and Director Osborne. And there are also some on the back table for any members of the public that are interested. Resolution of the Board of Directors of El Dorado Irrigation District recognizing Brian K. Veerkamp for exemplary leadership and commitment, whereas Brian, I don't know if I'll be able to do this. Whereas Brian K. Veerkamp, a fifth-generation resident of El Dorado County and descendant of the pioneering Wagner and Veerkamp families, has demonstrated extraordinary, lifelong, and unwavering commitment and leadership to his community. And whereas Brian K. Veerkamp was elected to the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors in 2012, serving 2 4-year terms for District 3, contributing significantly through various county assignments, and re-elected in 2024 to serve his 3rd term in 2025, continuing his community leadership role as supervisor for District 3. Whereas between terms on the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors, Brian K. Veerkamp was elected to the El Dorado Irrigation District Board in November 2020, served as the EID Board Vice President in 2022 and as Board President in 2023, demonstrating continued exemplary leadership and governance, this time to EID. Whereas during his tenure on EID's board, Brian K. Veerkamp represented EID on the LAFCO board, advancing EID's goals and objectives. Whereas during the Calder fire that began on August 14, 2021 and encompassed more than 220,000 acres, Brian K. Veerkamp, alongside other board members, declared an emergency and approved critical contracts for the expedited replacement and restoration of the water conveyance system, including the reconstruction of flumes 4, 5, 6, and 30 that were destroyed. This action was essential to restore the El Dorado Canal system, which is vital for the delivery of 1/3 of EID's available drinking water supplies. Whereas Brian K. Veerkamp, along with his fellow directors, voted unanimously to authorize construction of the Sly Park intertie, which will provide district-wide reliability and flexibility improvements to water delivery infrastructure during emergencies such as the Calder fire that ravaged key arterial water conveyance facilities, while also providing improved flexibility to conduct key long-deferred preventive maintenance on treatment facilities to reduce the potential for future unscheduled outages and large-scale interruptions of service to district customers. Whereas Brian K. Veerkamp has dedicated over 30 years to public emergency services, beginning as a paid volunteer, call firefighter, and culminating as fire chief of the El Dorado Hills Fire Department, where he played a vital role in district consolidations, disaster mitigation, service delivery enhancement, and maintaining financial stability for fire and emergency services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the El Dorado Irrigation District Board of Directors hereby recognizes and honors Brian K. Veerkamp for his outstanding leadership, dedication, and significant contributions to the betterment of El Dorado County and its residents. Be it further resolved that this resolution be entered in the official records of the El Dorado Irrigation District and a copy be presented to Brian K. Veerkamp as a token of our deepest appreciation and respect. front here?
Yeah.
Can you go all the way?
Congratulations, Ryan. And I also want to take this opportunity to lobby you. EID should have a permanent seat on the water. Thank you.
Oh, I can do it.
Before we move on to the next one, could we just, President Day, would you mind if I just said a couple of thoughts? Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to, actually, because I know I'm going to say something about George, I didn't want Brian to feel left out, so yeah. I'm just kidding. Director Veerkamp, I just wanted to say thank you. In my professional career, I've met few people that have demonstrated their care and commitment for the community that we live in than you. And we've all benefited from it, and we in particular have benefited from it for the past 4 years. Your contributions have been immense, and I'm very grateful for your service here. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in your returning role at the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody. It's truly been an honor and my pleasure. I did this because it's an opportunity to learn the inside and out of EID, because as, in my opinion, as water goes, so goes EID, and so goes the County of El Dorado. And we have much more to do as we move forward from past strained relationships with the Water Agency and EID, and I think we're on a path to really correcting those, and that's my challenges and charges to do that moving forward. As Director Osborne stated earlier, our employees are everybody is top-notch, professional. Just look at the repair that was done on the main here last week. That's a complicated job, and I know it very well from my brother's company and what he does. But those guys did an outstanding job. Everybody, right down obviously the customer service people out front, answered calls, answered probably complaints. School districts were affected and many others. So we are a top-notch organization, and I'm not going very far at all. Jen's already said you got to come back. I'm going to be around, obviously, and I'm going to come to meetings and be engaged and involved. And that seat on the Water Agency, Alan, is something I think that we probably should attempt to work for, because it's something that we, again, as water goes, so goes El Dorado County. So we have to be, we're the largest purveyor, and we have to be engaged. So from the bottom of my heart, it's been great. Thank you. It's been a quick 4 years. I look forward to continuing to serve El Dorado County and our people, and that's what we do. My wife Lori as well, with the High School District Board and other various commitments. So we love y'all, and we're gonna be here and continue to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Even though it will be hard, I feel like I owe this to Director Osborne, and I will get through it and stay strong. Resolution of the Board of Directors of El Dorado Irrigation District recognizing George W. Osborne for distinguished service and dedication. Whereas George W. Osborne has dedicated his life to public service, inspiring others to follow in his footsteps and serve the people of California. Whereas George W. Osborne is one of the longest-serving members in the history of El Dorado Irrigation District Board and the longest-serving board member, having first been elected to fill the remainder of an unexpired term in 2001 and subsequently re-elected in full terms in 2003, 2007, 2011, 2016, and 2020. Whereas George W. Osborne has served the EID in various leadership roles, including as Vice President in 2007, 2012, 2015, and 2019, and as President in 2002, 2003, 2008, 2013, 2017, and 2020, providing steady and effective governance throughout his tenure. Whereas under George W. Osborne's tenure, paradigm-shifting projects were completed, including the transfer of the Sly Park unit from the United States Bureau of Reclamation to EID, marking a milestone event for the district, culminating in local control over its largest water supply. The Pleasant Oak Main Replacement Project, ensuring the safe, reliable operation of one of the district's key water transmission mains that had experienced a number of critical failures in recent years. The state-mandated Forebay Dam Modifications Project to meet modern-day dam safety standards while also increasing the emergency water supply to the Reservoir 1 water treatment plant, which proved critical to maintaining water operations during the Calder fire just 1 year later. The main ditch piping project to protect source water quality and achieve significant water conservation toward evolving state mandates. And the Sly Park intertie currently underway, which will provide a key redundancy for district-wide operational benefit during planned maintenance outages of treatment plants that cannot currently occur, as well as during response to emergencies such as the 2021 Calder fire that devastated the El Dorado Canal flume system. Whereas under George W. Osborne's tenure, EID was instrumental in completing multiple successful water transfers, bringing a new source of non-rate revenue to the district, securing a crucial water contract to exercise the district's permit 2112 water right at Folsom Reservoir, and renewing the 40-year Federal Energy Regulatory Commission license for Project 184 to maintain local control of all Project 184 water supplies, ensuring long-term water resource management and operational freedom to the people of the county of El Dorado. Whereas George W. Osborne's guiding principles of integrity, transparency, and ethical standards have been pivotal in balancing the goals of maintaining and improving EID's complicated infrastructure systems while keeping rates as low as possible without compromising the safety and reliability of services. Whereas George W. Osborne dedicated 41 years of his career to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, retiring as chief of the Amador El Dorado Alpine Unit, where he managed fire and emergency service operations with distinction and also became a peace officer standards and training certified peace officer. Whereas George W. Osborne has also demonstrated his commitment to the community service beyond his role at EID, serving as president of the Placerville Rotary Club in 2005 and actively contributing to numerous community projects and initiatives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the El Dorado Irrigation District Board of Directors hereby recognizes and honors George W. Osborne for his over 2 decades of outstanding service, leadership, and unwavering dedication to the El Dorado Irrigation District and the broader community it serves. Be it further resolved that this resolution be entered into the official records of the El Dorado Irrigation District and a copy be presented to George W. Osborne as a token of our deepest appreciation and respect.
Fascinating, it's been frustrating, it's been fun, it's been a whole big issue, so I want to thank him and congratulate him. Thank you. One more thing for him. It's his signature look. If I can get this open. I want you to enjoy many, many days. Go to Cabo and have fun. I want to see you wear this when you come visit.
We'll do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few things?
As I've said in the past, I've really enjoyed my tenure here, and it's been very rewarding. And with the resolution that we're going to vote on, I'm going to do this for Brian Veerkamp because his dedication to the fire service, dedication to EID, dedication to the Board of Supervisors, and we look forward to his dedication in the future. And I will be back to bug you people once in a while, and I will wear this shirt. And what I've said in the past, and I said EID is an island, not an island. What we do affects a lot of people and a lot of in the county. And I hope my tenure been here has contributed a little bit towards being a responsible citizen, and thank you so much.
So I think there was a motion, George, so I will second it in your honor.
That's appropriate.
Thank you.
I like that. That's good. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Go ahead.
It'd be a board comment. George, here's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your history. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for creating the laughter I need sometimes because I can take life a little too serious as a board member. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you, President Day. I do have something that I'd like to say. You know, Director Osborne, as is evident in the many, many accomplishments that are, some of which are highlighted in the resolution, your impact, the things that you've participated in, the things that you've led and you've pushed for will be felt not just at EID, but in this community for decades, if not longer. I'm confident of that. I am so grateful for the work that you have put in here and for the privilege and opportunity I've had to work with you. But those accomplishments aren't, I suspect, the thing that most of us will remember. I think what we'll remember is just what a kind and genuine and caring person you are. As is evident in your first comments, you talked about the associations and the people here, and I think that reflects who you are, a person who cares about other people in everything that you do, and we have felt that. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have to say ditto for all of the comments, and I think the major accomplishment of going to Washington, striving to get Jenkinson Lake under EID control is probably the hallmark of your service. And I'd also like to thank you for encouraging me to join the board. It's also been a rewarding experience. So this is your fault. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Like my 2 cents in there before opening it up to the public. Brian, it's been a pleasure working with you under your leadership. Learned a lot, respect you, and thank you for your service. George, you're one of a kind, and when they broke the mold, thank God. Your laughter, your humor, your leadership, your constant bugging me every board meeting before the meeting to just tell me about your firefighting days will be missed. But truly, your leadership, making some tough decisions as a board member, shows true grit. And that true grit goes a long way. So congratulations. Thank you for your service.
All right.
Will you have it? Sorry.
No, we can't hear you. Some of us are deep. I'm coming.
There we go. There we go. Director Osborne, Pat Johnson here, your former paralegal to the Office of General Counsel. I had the honor and pleasure of working with you and for you for 18 of those 23 years. I want to say thank you for your service to this public agency and to all the communities that you have impacted. You've done good, and I wish you and Carol, Wendy and Nancy the best in the years ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say a few things. Brian, first, thank you for your dedicated service for the last 4 years. I appreciate all the support you've had for our projects that we brought to the board throughout that time, and you've been a great board member. And I think I've learned that you're probably even better golfer over the last 4 years. So I wish you all the best as you move over to the county and move into more El Dorado County governance. And George, I think you came on the board about the same time that I started having to attend board meetings and start presenting projects. So again, I want to appreciate your support for me and support for our projects as well. I can remember, it was probably in the early 2000s. We had a Oak Ridge storage tank that we had to get approved by the board. We only had one bidder. It was higher than what we thought, kind of the typical story. So it was a tough presentation. And I just remember you came up after that presentation upstairs, complimented me on that presentation. And so that meant the world to me. And I still remember that. So thank you. And then just on a lighter note, a few things I'm going to miss about George. I'm going to miss all the Sly Park and Caples Lake fishing reports. And I note that emphasize fishing reports because there wasn't a whole lot of catching reports on those. I'm going to miss your musical Christmas tie that you always brought and wore at the December meeting, and then started playing that in the background as we were trying to conduct serious business here. And then lastly, every time I go to Home Depot and start lamenting the cost of PVC pipe elbows, I'm going to think of you, George, so thank you for that. Thank you, George.
Good morning, Paul Penn, Diamond Springs. Of the people in this room that I first met was probably Brian in the early 90s when you were a battalion chief and I was doing hazardous materials emergency response work for the state. And over the years, seeing the work you've done for the community on the board and back here. And I remember talking to you when you were board of supervisor in your office, thinking about this position. And you asked and said, well, do you really want to run for the Board of Supervisors? And I said, there is no way in hell I want to run for the Board of Supervisors. But I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you, both from here and your relationship at the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Paul.
George. I first met George in 1998 when we had the unfortunate responsibility of conducting a fatality investigation of a young firefighter who had a line of duty death. And we spent time, it was an agonizing period, but we got to know each other. And we didn't really spend any time for the next decade until I started showing up here He goes, noodles, and that's another story. But I'd indicated an interest. I had a background in water and things like that, and I told George that I would not run against him because, one, it would be a fool's errand because he had the support and all the work he'd done within the community. But mostly is because I thought he was doing a great job. And I said, I'm willing to bide my time, and the time has come, and I hope that I can do just a small modicum of the work you've done for the community in my upcoming tenure on the board. And but I won't be on the board for 24 years. That would make me almost 96 years old. But I do want to thank you for your time and all what you've done for the community. And I look forward to trying to bring a small modicum of humor to this board when I sit in that seat. So thank you very much.
All right, do we have anybody online?
If there are additional members of the public that would like to speak on action item number 13, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Day, it does not appear we have any additional members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 13, option 1, moved by Director Osborne and seconded by Director Veerkamp. I believe that we are ready for the vote.
All right, I normally shouldn't be saying something like this, but this better be unanimous.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All voting aye, motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now we get to do some more interesting stuff, a little less fun. We have 5 closed session items, A, B, C, D, and E. Counselor, do we have a time estimate?
Thank you, President Day. You highlighted the closed session, so no need for me to repeat that. I anticipate that this will require at least half an hour, 45 minutes.
There you go.
Well, somebody's on the list.
At least.
Come on now, let's be optimistic, you know.
It just might take an hour for the last one.
So we won't return any sooner than, I'll call it 32 minutes, than 11 a.m., but it could well be later than that. Thank you, everybody.
This meeting will shut down until we resume from closed session, not before 11 a.m.
All right, we are back from closed session at 11:58 a.m. Excuse me. Counselor, do we have any reports?
Thank you, President Day. The board met in closed session A with its labor negotiators to provide direction, but took no reportable action. It then met with its council, with its general counsel on closed session items B, C, and E, and again provided direction, but took no reportable action on either of those items. And then finally, the board met to conduct the performance evaluation for myself, the general counsel, and took no reportable action. And that concludes my report.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about it.
All right, do we have any assignments?
No review of assignments. But you said we came back at 11:58, but it's only.
I was looking at that. Oh, 11:53, excuse me. I added 5 minutes.
Okay.
The clock in my head is always running
So
5 minutes ahead.
no review of assignments. So when you close, can you just say the correct
Yes.
time?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And so now we will adjourn at, I have to do the math. That's what's, I need a digital.
11:54.
11:54 a.m. Meeting adjourned.